And welcome to Retirement Ain't Easy, Vinyl of the Month. And this month, we're going to be talking about Blue Oyster Cult's Secret Treaties and the story behind this album and how it applies to my life. Okay, so this month's Vinyl of the Month for March, I've chosen Blue Oyster Cult's Secret Treaties. This is their third album from 1974. And if you recognize the song intro I just played, you'll know the song that's off of this, and you'll understand the story I'm about to tell. Why this album? Well, many years ago, I lived in Killeen, Texas. Actually, I lived on Fort Hood, Texas, if you're familiar with the Army base there. And my first year there, 10th grade, and Killeen High School. That was the only high school at the time when I first got there. Now I think there's like 5 or 6 high schools down there in Killeen. But 10th grade geometry class, the spring semester, I met a guy named Dennis in the back of the geometry class. And we got to talking, and it turns out we liked the same bands, we liked the same music. And Dennis was in the process of learning how to play guitar. And I had taken some guitar lessons over summer school one year, so I think after sixth or 7th grade. And I actually still have my guitar. I'll actually have to post that here, the nylon string guitar that I started with. And so I had taken guitar lessons that summer and learned simple songs like Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley, and folk songs at the time. So Dennis came into class and we started talking about bar chords and how to play guitar with bar chords and rock. And I was like, what? I had never heard of this. So we worked up a system where we could teach ourselves songs. First he taught me what bar chords were, which, they're like that. If you ever see a guitarist playing bar chords, that's the rock chord. And so we worked out a system where we could teach each other songs, or mainly Dennis teaching me because he was really good at learning songs. And back then you had to take your vinyl record and move the needle back, listen to it, move the needle back, and he was very patient in that respect. I didn't have the patience to do that. So he would learn the songs, and then he would bring them into class and say, hey, look at this is what I learned. And we would use our arms, exactly like this, as a fretboard, and he would say, here's how that one goes, dun, 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 dun. And he taught me many songs like that in the back of the geometry class. And so Dennis and I, in that class, formed a mutual lifelong bond over guitar, starting with guitar. So I had some lessons, and he taught me some things, and we started hanging out at a place called the Music Center. It was a place on Fort Hood, Texas, where the GIs, I'm going to use the term grunts, it's not derogatory, it's just something we called, that was just slang for GIs back then, grunts. The grunts could go to the Music Center and they could check out instruments, check out amps, bass, guitars. Of course, the stuff was really poorly used, badly maintained. The cool thing about the Music Center was that they had these soundproof rooms where you could rent. And I remember they had at least 4 or 5 scattered around this area. And then they had this small little auditorium with a big stage where you could also rent if you were brave enough to go up there and play in front of everybody. We spent a lot of time at the Music Center jamming. We jammed with all kinds of people, and we started thinking about forming a band. I had another good friend of mine, Bill, call him Bill O. I brought on, and he wanted to sing. He had never sung before, but what the heck? We weren't that great at playing guitar, so. And then he had a friend from his church named Howard, who decided, okay, I'll play bass. Never played the bass. The cool thing about the Music Center was you could go rent a bass and take it into a room and practice and learn all about it. And Howard was pretty good about doing that. So we had myself and Dennis on guitars. We had Bill to sing, because at the time, me and Dennis, we didn't feel comfortable singing and playing at the same time. We had Howard on bass learning, and we needed a drummer. Well, we looked around the Music Center and we met a guy named Bill, and I'll call him Bill L. And Bill L was actually a guitarist, but since there were so many guitarists running around the music center every weekend, he would sit in, just so he could jam, he would sit in and play drums, and he could keep a beat. He came on and we brought him on as our drummer. We jammed, we practiced. Dennis started teaching us some songs. We decided we needed a name of our band. We called ourselves Leaf, L-E-A-F, which back then, it was pretty obvious what that meant. Black Sabbath has a song called Sweet Leaf, for instance. If you know what that's about, well, that's kind of where we were coming from with the name Leaf. Started learning songs. We weren't very good. Me and Dennis, we both had pawn shop guitars because we couldn't afford, real guitars. So we go down to the pawn shop, buy a $150 guitar or $100 guitar, and that's what we played. And if we got more money from working or whatever, we would go and turn that one in at the pawn shop and get a better pawn shop guitar. That was our life for a while there. We practiced a lot. We'd meet up and we'd jam and we'd practice, and Dennis would teach us the songs. And we weren't very good, and we definitely didn't have enough songs to play at a bar or anything. And anyway, at that time, I was 17. Dennis was probably 17 too. Howard was 15. I think Bill had turned 18 by then. And Bill L, I don't remember what age he was, but we were all underage anyway. So we'd play at the music center, and every once in a while we'd get brave enough and we'd rent the stage and we'd play, and our girlfriends would come, and so they would come watch us hang out. And so there was no other place to play except the music center, until one day the music center decided to have a battle of the bands. And we were like, oh, we gotta get into this. So we signed up for the Battle of the Bands. And at the time, we really only knew 2 songs really, really well. And all you had to do was play 2 songs. So we picked out the 2 songs that we figured we could play pretty well. And that was Jumping Jack Flash by the Rolling Stones and Strutter by Kiss. And if you're familiar with those songs, they're both in B. And they're both similar chords, similar bar chords. So it really wasn't that difficult to learn and get it together. We practiced those 2 songs for weeks leading up to the Battle of the Bands. When we got to the day for the Battle of the Bands, there were only 3 bands in the competition. We were like, well, we feel pretty good about this. Only 3 bands. We knew some of the guys in one of the bands, but we didn't know the other band at all. No clue who those guys were. We drew straws to see who could go first, and we drew the short straw, and so we got on and we went first. We were confident. We set up all our borrowed music and our pawn shop guitars, and I think Howard at the time didn't own a bass. He may have had to rent a bass to play this. Plugged in into this crappy amps that the music center had that they would rent out, and we played our songs. We played our hearts out. I don't remember us ever messing up those 2 songs. Bill sang good. Bill L played drums great, and I don't remember any mistakes. When we got done, we looked out at the audience from the stage, and there was just a little smattering of applause from our 2 or 3 girlfriends that were sitting there in the front row. We got off the stage. We were high. We were like, way to go, man. That sounded great. That's the best we've ever sounded. We sat down, and that high lasted all of about 20 minutes, because that's how long it took for the next band to set up their Marshall stacks, their immaculate, huge drum set, mic everything up, and kick into their song. And when I say immaculate drum set, they also had real guitars, what I would call real guitars, Gibson guitars. One of the guys had a Gibson Les Paul that was just gorgeous, a gorgeous Gibson Les Paul guitar. And so they kicked into their first song, and that's where this album comes in to play. Their first song was Dominance and Submission by Blue Oyster Cult. Now, at the time, I was not that familiar with Blue Oyster Cult. They kicked into the song, and they were good. They were really good. I mean, if you close your eyes, you'd think you were listening to Blue Oyster Cult. That's how good these guys were. We sat out in the audience, and we slowly just sank down into our chairs, and there was just an unspoken feeling of crushing defeat. You didn't have to say anything. We just looked at each other and we like shook our heads. I don't remember the band's name. I don't remember their name, but I do know the guitarist who had the Les Paul, the Sunburst Les Paul, was Doug Solo. And Doug was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. Whoop-ass guitar player at that age. I mean, he was probably 18, I think, then. 18, 19, maybe, 7. And could really play guitar. And the band really kicked ass. I don't even remember the other song that they played, but I mean, Dominance and Submission was just unbelievable. I don't remember the other band that came on after them, the GIs. I believe the other band was 3 GIs, and it was a three-piece band. But I don't remember what they played. You know, there's only 3 bands in this Battle of the Bands, and the two of the bands were going to go on and play at an outdoor concert for a bigger audience of GIs at a Memorial Day celebration, I think, is where it was, at a baseball field or something. So 2 of the 3 bands were going to get to go. Guess which band didn't make the cut? Yeah, you guessed. Leaf. We were a little down, demoralized, I guess. We thought we played great, and you know, we practiced our butts off for that. You know, it is what it is. We couldn't play out anywhere else because we were underage, for one, and we didn't have enough songs for, you know, a 3-hour set at a bar. So that was our one time playing in the public. We never played in the public ever again. I think we maybe have played on the stage at Music Center again, just for the fun of it, just to rent the place out, but that was it. By the end of the summer, we had to break up because 3 of us were going off to college. I went off to the University of Southern Mississippi. Dennis went off to University of Texas down in Austin, Texas. And Bill O headed over to Texas Tech. And Howard was still in high school. He was still going to Killeen High School at the time. And Bill L, I don't know what happened to Bill L. I wasn't really that close with Bill L, but Bill L, I assume, just went back to being a guitarist and finding a band. Bill O, my best friend from high school, one of my best friends, passed away many years ago. Dennis, my very best friend as well from high school, passed away in 2019. Howard, if he's watching this, who knows? He knows who he is. And if you go to my blog, you'll see pictures of all of us playing in bands. This story is actually on my blog as well. But Howard, he's a lawyer in Kentucky. And Bill L. Still lives in Texas here. He lives in Central Texas, actually down by Killeen. And I am still buddies with him on Facebook. And he went on to play in country and bluegrass type music song. He's a guitarist, really good guitarist actually. So that's the story of Leaf. And that is the reason Blue Oyster Cult's Secret Treaties is the vinyl of the month for me here on Retirement Ain't Easy. So I hope you enjoyed this and my little story. Check out my other 2 videos from February and March. This is for April, vinyl of the month. And check those out. There's a story for each of those that goes with the album that I chose. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching this long. Check out some of my other videos. Subscribe, like, you know, whatever. Or pick one of these videos that maybe YouTube is recommending to you. And we'll see you next time on Retirement Ain't Easy. Take care.